Chavi and her young son Manu were cast into the night, stripped of their home and their dignity. The village had banished them because of Manu's father, Rakesh. He had collected a staggering sum of 10 lakh rupees from local farmers and then vanished. This diagram shows the system the money was intended for. Rakesh pitched it to solve the village's chronic power outages and failing irrigation, ensuring their crops would always have water. But instead of green fields and reliable electricity, the farmers were left with empty pockets. The community was convinced that Rakesh had stolen their savings and abandoned his own family to enjoy the spoils. This left Chavi and Manu to navigate the brutal elements of the jungle alone, carrying the weight of a 10 lakh rupee debt they had no part in creating. Pushed to the brink of starvation deep in the wilderness, the mother and son were eventually found by Timba, a member of the indigenous Veda tribe. Timba welcomed them into his home, living out the Veda philosophy that serving others is the highest duty. He fed them unique traditional dishes like banana sabzi and aloo bhat. As Manu ate, he realized that if they could bring this level of flavor back to the public, the 10 lakh rupee debt might actually be within reach. There was just one massive logistical hurdle. They had no kitchen, no electricity, and no active heat source to keep meals warm across miles of rural roads. They engineered a zero-cost thermal insulation system. They placed hot food inside clay pots, set within wooden boxes, tightly packed with dry hay. This hay acts as a thermal barrier. Heat radiating from the pot bounces off the insulation, recirculating, keeping food hot for 7 hours. The design worked. Their mobile cart was a massive hit, drawing huge crowds and quickly earning enough capital to open a permanent, bustling restaurant they called the Jungle Dhaba. Stripped of all resources and driven by a toxic legacy, Chavi and Manu turned their absolute lack of options into a highly efficient, self-sustaining enterprise. Their hard-won stability shattered when news arrived that a massive flood had swallowed the very village that exiled them. The village was cut off and starving. Chavi hesitated, acutely aware that these were the same people who had thrown her and her son out into the forest with nothing. But Manu remembered Timba's lessons. He insisted they apply the Veda philosophy of service, convincing his mother to pack up their supplies and return to the ruined town. The cost of their compassion was total financial drain. They exhausted every bit of profit the Jungle Dhaba had earned, feeding the entire displaced community for free for 2 full months. By choosing to help, Chavi and Manu traded their only safety net for the survival of the community that had abandoned them. As the floodwaters finally receded, the Dhaba was completely bankrupt. They were out of money and out of supplies, until a police jeep unexpectedly pulled up to their door. An inspector stepped out and handed Manu a canvas bag. Inside was the exact amount of cash the village had originally lost. The police brought the hidden truth to light. Rakesh was never a thief. He had been completely conned by the supplier he trusted to deliver the solar panels. While the village assumed he was hiding with their money, Rakesh was actually tracking the scammers from town to town, documenting their movements to build a case for the police. He successfully tipped off the authorities, but the scammers discovered him and took his life before police arrived. The revelation crushed the village. They realized they had banished a woman and a child while the father was actively dying to recover their savings. Filled with remorse, the farmers refused to take a single rupee back. They gave the recovered capital to Manu, insisting he use it to rebuild his business, which he renamed Rakesh Dhaba. The village eventually recovered their money, but the real restoration happened at the edge of town, where the newly renamed Rakesh Dhaba proudly stood as a permanent record of the truth they had nearly lost forever.